Okay, so I need to make this clear. He has a choice. He's picked this final anvil. He has a choice of 2 items. He's playing Riven, okay? He has no magic damage on his team. He can either make Adaptive Helm plus Runeance for 3-item Kayle, and then he can Adaptive Helm I think it was his Mord, which is carrying his Even Shroud, protect your Even Shroud and make Runeance Kayle, which I think is Kaylin's best item, by the way. or you can make BT Kayle and Shiv Garen. I don't like the BT Kayle.
Shiv the Garen.
I don't know, maybe with Shiv Mordekaiser or something. I forget. Whatever.
Okay. So wait, was it correct though when you watched out the line? Did you think to yourself, "Wow, this Aegon guy is cooking"?
It was correct because he got his Kayle Akali every single time, so he lived. I think there's a little bit you can do about the positioning to not get your Kayle Akali every single time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the official podcast dedicated to all things high-level teamfight tactics in North America. And today we have episode number 42. Today is February 15th, 2024. It's live from 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Happy Valentine's Day to anybody that did celebrate it. That is something that some of us in TFT actually do. Unlike some certain individuals who might be tweeting about it and posting that they didn't do anything. Bryce, my co-host as always, how was your Valentine's Day? How's life been since our last episode?
Life has been pretty good, actually. We're trending up, less sick, better sleep, happier kids, happier parents. Valentine's Day was good. It was very different. It was kind of like a new version of Valentine's Day. Like, my wife and I have done a picnic together for Valentine's Day for like a decade, and we did it yesterday, but we did it with our almost 3-year-old, and she like had the best time. We like got some of her favorite foods, and she like sat there and like grabbed the stuff, and it was great. So we had a really good Valentine's Day, maybe a little different than my Valentine's Days used to look, but it was actually a really awesome day.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. We have a returning guest, Rainplosion. The last time we had Rainplosion, I believe, was our fundraising episode for the Vegas Open. And then prior to that, we had Rain on for a different set. So in terms of talking about tournaments, it's been a little bit of time. So Rain, welcome back. How's life? How's the past week for you?
Past week has been great. I was just so happy that so much of lab got into regionals. 1, 2, 3, 4, and regionals might just all be lab.
That's right. It feels like the lab is really starting to come into their own. We could talk about a little bit more how it does feel like they're still being underestimated, but it feels like, is it fair to say that you're like one of the leaders of the lab, or do you consider yourself just kind of like one of the members?
I'm at the very least the figurehead. That makes me the leader.
Wait, what's the distinction?
There's some hesitance around that.
In your head, what's that distinction, Rain?
Okay, so the thing is, I'm happy being like the person kind of like leading the charge and whatever, but like I also am like lazy at like organizing stuff. So for example, I don't know, I think Vanilla could be considered more so the leader of the lab, just because he's like more on top of like actually organizing, when we do stuff together.
So when you say you're a figurehead, it's more about like to represent the lab, right? So like, for example, we have Rain as part of the power rankings.
Sure. Yeah.
Rain's like submitting it, but it's actually Rain submitting it on behalf of the lab, for people who didn't know.
Oh.
Yeah, those power rankings I actually had very little to do with.
Wait, I didn't realize that. Rain, your ballot is like an aggregated ballot. You all work on it together?
Oh no, the last ballot, I actually had nothing to do with me. Most of the ballots, a lot of the recent ballots I submitted, it's just like 9 people yapping and call about what they think, and then
they do like their own podcast, Bryce. They're just like gathering, they're assembling.
That's honestly amazing. I'm so happy that ballot exists in the rankings. That's great.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, I know.
Great.
I'm like a figurehead because I'm not necessarily the one leading everything, but I'm like the person they a scapegoat to the person they can pin the name blame on, or the person they can leash the cloud off of. I don't know.
Okay, someone says Rain is communications and Vanilla is operations. Agree?
Oh, I liked it. They have chief officers. That's great. Okay. Thanks for that clarification. In the meantime, you may have heard him chime in if you're listening on the audio, but Noster, who's grown up before our very eyes. I think Noster's been competing quite for some time, but not, of course, only in results, posting back-to-back final lobbies and booking a spot into regionals, but also the beard, man. What's going on here, Noster? When's the last time you shaved?
Oh, I don't. It's been like probably over a year now. No, what is it?
Oh my
Yeah, probably like
God.
over a year. Yeah, I've been going out for a long time.
Okay,
I don't know, I
all
kinda like
right.
it.
Is it for a bet, or are you just kind of like lazy? Like what's going on?
He's rocking it, Dan.
I kind of like fidgeting with it a little bit. Honestly, it's kind of like whenever you see those people in movies, they just
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it is. I don't know what's so satisfying about
He
it.
doesn't
but-
have poker chips to play with. He has a beard, and it's
Yeah,
it's
I don't.
act
I mean,
out,
yeah,
right?
but yeah,
All
I've
right.
been doing good. I've been doing good.
I like it.
You've
I
been
like
doing,
it.
No, sir, you've been doing really well. This is, I mean, you're off to a tear this set, right? I mean, there's only been 2 tournaments, and are you the only person who final lobby both from Setsuko, right? Is that right?
That's right.
I'm not
Noster
sure.
and
I'm
Setsuko are the
not
2
sure.
players who made it to back-to-back final lobbies.
That's pretty. Hey, listen, if I ever want to be on a list with 2 people in TFT, I would like Setsuko to be on the other person on the list. It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that my results are kind of just me. So a lot of people get tricked into people like Soju being bad in tournaments because they're bad on ladder. But Soju's actually really good at like dialing it in and becoming really focused in tournaments. I think that in the past 2 tournaments, I've just kind of let it go and just like I've had music on in the background. I'm not really like so focused in, and I'm just kind of having a good time. And I think that has helped a lot.
That's awesome.
Can you talk a little bit about the timeline? For people who don't know, Noster, the last time you made like a really big splash, in my mind, and correct me if I missed anything, but I remember the last time you were kind of at least revered and feared in a certain way was set 4, which happened to be the last time there was a chosen mechanic versus the headliner. Is this something about the set mechanic? Because that was the set you hit rank 1. You were in top 8 in tournaments back then. And then there's like this big gap. Like we don't know between set 5 and set 9, but then now you're back. Is it something about the headliner mechanic in general?
I think it just helps tempo play a little bit because you can get access to units a little quicker. I don't know. I don't know what the correlation is. I really don't. I got no clue. I would just guess tempo. If I had to take a stab at it.
Bro, if you're throwing a dart at the board, that's what you're throwing it at.
Well, it's that or, well, no, because this is the first set. I decided to take TFT seriously, and I just really want to see how far I could push myself, right? The usual thing of like, oh, I had a good set of tournament results. This is the first set I'm trying.
Nah, that's too cliche. That's too cliche.
Do you think you are trying harder, Noster? Do you feel like you're working at your game more?
No, I think
Okay.
I've actually stopped. I think I've started trying less, I think, in fact.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, you've come up on the podcast every once in a while, and sometimes I'm critical of your play. I don't know if you know that or not, but like, I've also always really liked watching you stream. I think that you are constantly, I think you find edge that other people don't, so I think it's always really interesting to see. And I will say that like for a little while, it was starting to get harder for me to watch because I think you were just like angrier at the game. Like it just felt like so much of your stream was you venting about what wasn't going your way, whether it was the balance or the set itself. And I feel like this set you're just kind of vibing. It seems like you're like having fun and it's going well.
Yeah, when the balance is good, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
shouldn't that be for everybody?
Isn't it deeper than that though? Let's be honest. Like there's no way it's just the balance. is better.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just don't care as much. I think that's honestly, I just don't care as much. I think that I'm a little bit more disconnected. I think I've been not too emotionally connected, but definitely significantly invested in the past. And I think that I'm just kind of chill now. I've just chilled it out.
Maturing is another way to think about it. Not necessarily. I'm not talking about like how you are developmentally in terms of like growing up. Literally, I meant more about as a competitor. A competitor understands the balance between being passionate and I guess like just being overly invested into like the result and not the process. I think, especially in a game like TFT.
Yeah.
I also think some people are just wired differently. Like there are the people who need to get themselves super fired up to play their best, and there are people who need to get themselves into like a more flow or zen state.
Mm-hmm.
And when Noster was describing is immediately where my brain went, and someone in chat pointed out as well, that like that's where Setsuko was at too. Like he was getting angry at the game. He was like things were getting harder for him. He felt more pressure in tournaments. And then it was when he decided to say fuck it and kind of let it go and feel like him be himself again. That's when he started playing. That's when he started this literally unprecedented tear. I'm not saying, I mean, Noster, if you become Setsuko 2.0, that'd be awesome. But it would make sense that you guys are like
One
wired.
step at a time, Bryce.
That you're wired. I know, that's what I'm saying. Definitely steps to go. Setsuko is the best player in North America, maybe on planet Earth. So yeah, it's hard to be that good, but it's awesome, Noster, that it seems like you're making maybe a step forward and you're having more fun doing it.
That's great. That's great. Let's dive into that a little bit more in a second here, as we are going to just talk a little bit about things that's happened since the past week. And not that much. I think the first thing that's forefront on most people's minds is the B patch. And the B patch specifically has changed a few things for people who haven't known. B patch came out yesterday, and we have augments that have been disabled. We have traits that got nerfed and a couple of bug fixes. So I'm going to walk it through real quick, and then we'll just get some immediate reactions off of, what the patch is. Extended play has been disabled. It actually has been bugged this entire set. For people who don't know, extended play actually randomly doesn't give you a component, even though you 3-star punk units. But still, it was actually really good. They didn't fix that, and they said that it's just not worth it. And Heartthrobs also was bugged, and that it didn't do anything. It actually just gave you Cassante and Aphelios. Or at least I'm understanding it basically didn't do anything. And so they said, you know what? We can't get it done fixed in time, so we're just disabling these augments.
Yeah.
Poor Spicy Appies, by the way, did like a 4-hour VOD review stream to try and optimize Punk because he thought no one was playing it. And he's like, yeah, this is something I can maybe optimize.
No.
He did. He spent an entire day. It was more than 4 hours.
He did 4 hours of VOD review, like, okay, this is what you can do with the Punk. He looked up data. He was like cross-referencing other regions. He did all his analysis. And then he's like, and in the stream time, I was like, B patch soon. He raised the B patch live on stream and realized that extended play has been disabled. Oh my God. Were you in chat, Bryce, when that happened?
Yeah, I was really sad. Appy's been doing some of the best stuff. He did like a deep dive on Punk, they did a deep dive on Disco line. Like he's been really making sure that to start his regionals preparation, he's learning the lines that he feel like he doesn't know yet, so that he feels like he can play everything. It's been cool. Yeah. And yeah, it's a bummer that the rug got ripped out for under him for sure.
All good. They nerfed Heartsteel, specifically 5 Heartsteel instead of 2.25 hearts as a multiplier per champion kill, and all just in general the hearts. You get 2, so it's a sizable nerf in terms of 5 Heartsteel. Then they nerfed Kayle 2 and Kayle 3 damage. They nerfed Riven's specific ability damage, and they nerfed Zed's base AD, which is a little bit of a bigger deal if you're not familiar with how AD interacts with champions like Zed. And then they fixed Scrappy Inventions, and then Rageblade no longer resets on summons, which is, by the way, a shout out to Dish Soap. We didn't really know why Kayle's Rageblade reset specifically, and I think Dish Soap was the biggest catalyst to finding out why that was, to highlight to Mortdog and Riot to fix it. So classic Dish Soap moment.
He was playing Kayle way before basically everyone else.
So I actually need to say one thing.
Yeah.
So the lab actually knew about this even week 1. And then I was the one who discovered the tech, and then like they forbade me from saying it because they wanted to keep it all for themselves. So they like so their secret tech was no play Yorick on Kayle boards.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So
you
lab
wanted to
looking for every edge. Dish Soap figures out and immediately fixes it. Y'all sit on the knowledge. Good to know, Rain. Good to know.
So I'm just saying,
wow, do we need to start a new trial? A new trial right on the spot?
So I'm just saying, and like in week 1 when I was co-streaming, and you're like, oh wait, why did I race my reset? I was in there like, look at us, like I can't say anything. My lips are sealed.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That is...
Interesting. I mean, this is why bugs go unfixed. Okay,
hey,
Rain.
At least you admit it, Rain.
At least you admit it. Thanks for coming clean. Yes, you get to be the master of the story.
If I was the one who found the bug, it would have been outed to Mortdog. But unfortunately, a lot of people in the lab have less scruples than me. So yeah.
Oh, you got
the secrecy.
Yeah. Okay. Some people will get Rain to name names.
All right, that's right.
Oh, don't worry, we can name names. We can name names. It's just Kane True.
On a specific headhunt.
It's Kane True. It's Kane True.
Oh my! What? We just had him last episode. Well, guess who gets on the blacklist?
Yeah. It's okay. We mercilessly teased Kane Drew for the incident, so maybe it's even.
He goes on this podcast, gets roasted mercilessly after the KDA Cup, even though he made it to regionals. And then gets the fraud label. By the way, that became an official emote, the fraud stamp that went over Kendry. That's become like a flag banner of the lab, actually. Some weird moment. And now it comes up, and we passed that moment. One tournament later, Rainplosion bring it out. More Kane-Drew fraudulent accusations and allegations. Noster, your first reaction to the patch when you see all this?
Oh, I was waiting for the Z. I think that I've been complaining about the Z nerf. I don't think it's enough in my opinion. I think it should have been 5 AD. Or maybe, I don't know. Z still feels too good to me, but I think the Heartsteel change maybe evens it out. But because the Heartsteel nerf is actually, to me, it's very apparent. Because I feel like these Heartsteel boards are capping, or not capping lower, but I think that the main area that they struggle in is they're not getting 9 quite as quickly because of those like 80 cash outs and 60 cash outs that you would normally have gotten, because you lose some of those breakpoints and then you have less money, which maybe makes Zed balanced, I guess, because that's the main line that Zed is played in. But yeah, I think the Zed nerf is not enough, because in the Katarina line, the Zed unit is pretty good.
You might be right, but also it's the only line they hit twice. I think that I'm glad they did it this way. Even in hindsight, I think this was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. Heartsteel is definitely fallen off a lot, in my opinion.
Do you think similarly, Rain, or do you feel like Zed's not really the problem?
So I have very strong opinions about this, and I actually made a tweet about it.
Which never happens, by the way. I woke up and I was like, God, we have Rain on the podcast tonight. I don't remember last time she tweeted something like this. Fire away.
I actually put it on screen.
Holy shit! Wait, you actually put it on screen. Okay. So it really depends on how you think the game is meant to be played. It really depends on how you think like what's optimal for the game. But I hate the meta right now. I despise it. Like honestly, I'm even okay when like a certain line is like more broken than the others, because like either you can force a line to play better than other people, or you can like play other stuff that's uncontested. But I hate how the meta's played, because like the main line that you try for every single game feels so linear to me. And even though the comp variety is very large, every single 2-cost play reroll plays the exact same way. You roll on 6, try to hit your chosen. If you don't hit your chosen, you roll for something that can hold similar items, and then you try to find your chosen. Then you try to push 7. You try to like roll for your 4-cost carries, because every single one of the 2-cost comps also has an identical like 4-cost carry that holds dual carry items. And the tempo is so large that it just feels so bad to try to fast it with any comp, and I feel like Heartsteel was at least like something that was keeping them in check. But I just feel like 4-costs are so dead. You got to high roll so hard to be able to play them, because it's almost impossible to be able to win stage 3, because people are like, they're going to be rerolling.
Yeah.
And is this reflected in scrims right now from your experience?
Heartsteel is a 5.5. Heartsteel and Scrim is the most played comp. It's a 5.5 average. Like, I mean, yeah, people are playing it more than they should be. It's getting angled more than it should, but like sometimes you have no choice, because like you don't, either like, or I mean, you can always force something, I guess, but like sometimes like you're not in a very optimal spot to reroll, and then like I don't know, either you force a reroll and you coin flip whether you hit or not.
What do you say in response to people who look at all this and say, good? Like, it's about time Heartsteel got taken down a peg. Now we have more diversity than ever before in terms of like, Bryce, for example, likes the spot that 2-costs are. At least Bryce was saying things that he liked about the spots 2-costs were in.
Yeah.
Actually, so Bryce, you can elaborate, and then Rainer can respond.
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. So I sort of agree with you, sort of disagree with you, because my symptom read on the meta is that I think that the problem is that the baseline power of a lot of the 4-cost units and trees is not high enough to contest. So 2-star versions of reroll are stronger than they should be, and then out cap as well. And so I just think 4-costs feel to me overall in a really bad state. I think Heartsteel, as it currently stands, is probably the best one, which is why, like you said, it feels like sometimes you have no choice, because TF feels pretty specific, Caitlyn feels pretty specific, a lot of the other lines, Ahri feels pretty specific. A lot of games it feels like you do kind of get boxed into this corner, and it's been toned down, and I think it's probably about what the baseline power level will be. I think if Pentakill was as good as that, I think if Disco was as good as that, I think if there was like Ahri lines that felt as good as that, then it would actually be fine. Then like the 2-cost reroll would have appropriate like risk reward trade-offs, for if you miss too late, it'd be really problematic. You wouldn't get to go and hit your 2-star 4-cost, because a lot of them would be getting played on other people's boards, right? Whereas a lot of these units are like uncontested outside of the reroll lines. So that's my read on it. But I do agree that I think that for me, this regionals patch is going to be overly reroll heavy. I really like having a lot of viable strategies in my favorite TFT metas. I think it's important for reroll at 1, 2, and 3 cost to be like a viable option. But I think optimally like a good player should play those lines like 5 out of 20 games max. And this is like a lot more than that, right? Like a lot more.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we threw a lot at Rain.
So I'll just say like I actually agree with like basically everything that Bryce said. For me as well, my favorite meta would be when from like if you have their game plan and defined, like by default you look for a 4-cost comp, and then like if you natural a lot of copies or have a good spot for a certain reroll, like you identify the conditions, then you play it.
Yep.
Which you should be actively looking to do. And like honestly, it's fine if even like half the games are reroll, like, you know, because it is a skill identifying the lines you play, identifying like what you pick, what you go for on carousel. Like all of those are like, I think they're healthy for the game. I just hate that like the default is 2-cost reroll. Noster, I'm gonna call out. He loaded into every single lobby. He loaded into every single lobby. Typed on portal selection, Kayle, Sherry, and Seri and Deafened. Like I don't know what else to say. Like he played the patch correctly. I mean, if you look at my games, I played a lot of those lines too. You'll notice that I played a shit ton of 2-cost reroll, and that's why we both did well. But I hate the fact that that's how the patch is being played. I hate it.
Okay, Noster, get in here. I'm really curious for your take on this as well.
I agree with both of you, but I think that the main thing that enables both of the 4 costs to be bad and the 2 costs to be good is Superfan. I think that the fact that if you're playing 4 costs and you don't have Superfan, you have to have 3 items in the 4th stage to even have a chance against 3-star 2 costs with 3 usually BIS items, which it means you have to have good items. You have to have the 4-cost units with good items to have any chance against people who just lose streak early and then have good items, and then the 4 costs just don't stand a chance, and the 2 costs are just allowed to effectively stomp out the 4 costs.
I think I like where you're heading at, because this is going to be a follow-up question, just philosophically, and then we're going to bring up something that more Doug said to kind of transition the topic. How much of this is because of headliners as a mechanic? Like because of the way things have spiked and headliners have bonuses and everything like that? Because for a while, do you remember at the beginning of the set, when people were talking about just 2-star 4 costs, just smashed everything, right? Because of headliners. And it felt like nothing V-roll was viable whatsoever. And then they had to do some weird stuff, and all of a sudden Jack started becoming more popular, and Yone and everything like that. So kind of going back to full circle here, is it something like headliner mechanics, or headliners fine, and it's really about something more like the Superfan that's what's being discussed?
Maybe this is a hot take, but I actually don't think that headliner is that influential in this meta for what comps are played, because I think that generally, and obviously there are plenty of exceptions from this, but I think that generally the how far you are ahead tempo wise, if there wasn't headliners, it's about the same. Like if you're getting a free 2-star 4 cost on 4-2, it's probably about the same as getting a free 3-star 2 cost at 4-1.
Wait,
I think
really?
Yeah, I'd say it's about the same tempo wise. I in my opinion, I mean, maybe that's a hot take.
Interesting.
Okay. Rain, what do you think about like people pointing at headliners? Because I've heard this discussion in a couple of different circles. They were just like, man, headliners it's just headliners. It's at 11, everything's gonna reset, everyone's gonna like remember what it's like to play more honestly, instead of like this, headliner, and you get like a hero grab bag, or you get like a random duplicated, all of a sudden 3-star spike out of nowhere. What do you think?
I don't know if headliners are necessarily the problem. I think I've had a lot of fun playing around them, like seeing like buying a Kayle Chosen on a flex roll down. I've played some like garbage like Caitlyn Karthus wards sometimes, and like I think they like promote like pretty flexible play. But I mean, I kind of highlighted it in the tweet, but I think it's just 3 Superfan, 3 KDA, which makes this meta specifically so bad, because the 3 Superfan, 3 KDA package is so strong. You have to hit like 2-star 4 cost tanks to even like have a stronger front line than that, because just the package deal is so strong. Like 3 KD is just so incredibly broken. I mean, sorry, the KD trait itself is just incredibly strong, because as a verticals trait, the trait itself needs to be strong. But I think it's one of the stronger,
and you're not using hyperbole here, because again, when people from Riot watch this show, so if you're saying incredibly broken, are you saying slightly over the line, or you actually think it is like egregiously overpowered? I'm trying to understand the nuance here, because TFT high speed can make it lost sometimes.
So From a balance perspective, you can't nerf them too much. They are actually like, from a balance balance wise, they are actually incredibly broken. But you also can't nerf them because you can't like they actually need to somewhat stand up to forecast frontline, because for a lot of comps, this is your best like frontline. Like if you're trying to play any sort of Ahri comp, for example, you'll almost always include like these super fans in, unless some other vertical trait is broken like Sentinels. So unless you want to make like Ahri herself an unviable comp, it does need to be some baseline level of like really, really strong, because it literally does need to compete with a forecast frontline. So in that sense, like, yeah, it is egregiously broken. It like Superfan frontline does actually like at least compete with forecast frontline until like the full forecast frontline is 2-starred. But at the same time, you can't like nerf it that much. But I'd at least like to see 3KD getting some nerfs.
Okay, so it's a design issue, is what we're pointing at. Then. Like the way.
I don't know, like you can call like.
There's a problem somewhere that you're identifying.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that this happens a lot though, right? Like sometimes there's really strong verticals that like overperform other like similar things, but like that's just what happens in the set. Sometimes like some traits are stronger than others because of like it needs to be that way for like certain comps to be even playable in the game.
Okay. That can be where we rest, because I feel like I'm just grilling right at this point and trying to make her, kind of trying to call out on some of her opinions or fall through.
Sure. We can say like I hate. So we can go back to like the spicy bit then. Well, I'll just say I hate Superfan. I love the fact that you can play like super flexibly around what carries you play in like stage 3. It's actually it's actually like really nice to be able to just like buy whatever. I want to play towards say center reroll, but like I can buy Cat, Bard, Seraphine, whatever, like and play on my board, and I can play flexible mid game. Great. The problem is that this trait is so over dominant that like you kind of really need it.
Yeah, back to the beginning. Back at the beginning of the set.
Superfan is the problem. It's the problem.
It's funny because I this week on stream, I actually have been on record multiple times to say I think Superfan is one of my favorite traits they've made in a while, because I really like. I think what made push it over the top was the ability to remove items from your headliner. I think that was a really cool thing. But I think I'm into this Superfan. You guys are talking trash about one of my favorite traits they've made in a while. Bryce, are you on my side or are you on their side? Choose wisely. No, just go ahead. Say it.
I kind of want to hear. I was curious for Noster's take on this as well. So Noster, I want to make sure we loop back to you. I think overall Superfan has probably been a good thing for the set, but I do think that the implications of adding this level of flexibility, like overtuned flexibility, has been pretty meta warping at times. So I think like I would enjoy playing I enjoyed playing a version of the set with it. I think I would also enjoy playing a version of the set without it, because I think it has so dramatically changed how it has felt to play the entirety of the set in a way that I don't think I really anticipated when the set launched. I did not see this coming.
No, so you already kind of elaborate a little bit on Superfan, so...
I think, in my opinion, the issue, like, we'll just wrap it up. I think with Superfan, what it should be is if, in the future, if they have a synergy that gives items, I think that it should probably be tied to a forecast. I think that would make it significantly more balanced. I mean, it would also feel kind of bad, because if you miss it and you're playing for it, it would feel terrible, but I think if they made it so that it's tied to a 4-cost, it would feel a lot more balanced. It's like, let's say it's a 2-cost, a 3-cost, and a 4-cost, and you go level 7 and then you roll. Because then there's some level of risk to it compared to just, here's a free item for your main carry, do whatever you feel like.
Okay, understood. I like thematically where Superfan is as well, but I'm kind of a sucker for that kind of flavor stuff. But okay, 3v1, that's fine. For now,
at least sort of on your team. On balance, I think I'm on Dan's team. I think I'm on Dan's side.
No, so the thing is, I have to go back to this as well. Like I love playing Superfan as well. Like it actually makes flex play so fun.
Yeah,
but like
it really does.
It does.
But, like the thing is, I like playing around Superfan. I don't like when other people are playing around Superfan.
Boom, and there we have it.
That's the perfect conclusion.
Mortdog tweeted earlier today about the preview for the next patch. We're not going to talk too much about the future patch, but it's more about the philosophy behind it. Mortdog tweeted, and he's actually starting to post essays every day, mini essays on game design. So for people, there are a handful of people that want to get into games or are just interested by game design. Mort is giving free coaching lessons daily on his Twitter. So he's actually one of the best if you just want to like understand game design and an approach to game dev. So
these tweets are gold. He
Yes.
actually drops like genuine wisdom from his career,
Yes.
and he does it in like under 500 words. It's like I literally every time I see them, I read them. They're always good.
yeah, and a lot of people charge like courses for this. Anyways, not to
This
you
is-
know,
it's
gas up and
great
glaze more
content.
too hard, because we're about to kind of pick apart a little bit.
Yeah,
what he says. I'm setting it up because I think I'm giving room for people to dunk on it if you want. Patch 14.4 is our smallest patch of all time, which is a good thing. I've always said if we achieved, quote, perfect balance, end quote, we wouldn't patch TFT and would let it sit there for the remainder of the set. This is as close as we've ever come, and combined with the fact that the championship we play on this patch, it was the perfect time to get pretty darn close to that. In terms of things that affected rank, there are only 7 changes, and they are all small for stuff like buffing 6 rapid fire. Now, I can already hear the skeptics calling out, quote, they think this is balanced? With 3 question marks, end quote. And for full transparency, yes, this is about as close to balanced as TFT can be. There are viable paths at every cost and every strategy, multiple of them, in fact, based on which portal is happening. Some may have different strengths and weaknesses, but there are tons of viable strategies that almost any carry can do well. If you care deeply about a balanced meta with tons of skill expression, this is it. There's a part 2. But I'm also aware that not actually what everyone wants. Some players do not enjoy losing to a 1 or 2 cost reroll comp. Some players don't enjoy losing to someone who played the econ trait well. Everyone has a preference for how the game should be played, and when it doesn't fit into the mold, they aren't enjoying it as much. And as I mentioned before, it is impossible to please everyone. There's also another phenomenon I see due to how complex TFT is, where someone will post an endgame screen and say, how did second lose to first? When you look at it, if you reverse the terms of the questions, it could also be asked. Stuff with fuzzy values like prismatic trait, losing to a 3-star 4 cost becomes difficult to quantify, and therefore players question the balance since there's no clear indication of what should be. TFT's complexity makes it difficult to truly quantify what is balanced, but from my position, what you are playing is pretty darn close. I'm happy to discuss that, as I'm fully aware some will disagree, but it is what it is. 14.4 is tiny. Then 14.5 is the final Remix Rumble patch, and set 11 heads to PB. Pretty wild. Till then, take it easy. Which begins officially a different show flow. We're going to actually kick off Agree right here, right now. So, do we agree with Mortdog's statement? Let's start off with Rainplosion.
I mean, I've said my piece. I'm not gonna argue too much. Like, I just think reroll is overly dominant. Please nerf 3K. If like 3KD was, I mean, it's really darn close to being balanced. I'll say it. It's really darn close to being balanced. I'm pretty sure if they literally just nerfed the 3KDA down from 8 to 7, I'd call it balanced. But
There's you said 8's ADAP, 8% HP.
Is it 8 or 9? Oh, sorry, I think it's 9. 9 88 AP HP. If you turn
Just move
that
it down
8 to
one
9,
integer.
One integer. I'm pretty sure this patch is pretty balanced.
It's so funny how it's just one integer and it's making you hate the patch. It feels like such strong language for a 1% nerf. But you're mostly agree. Interesting.
That's the reality of TFT on some level. Like I totally.
Oh, I
feel where it's
understand
coming from.
completely. I feel like when you contextualize it that way, it's just really interesting to hear a person
Think about how hard it is to
hyper-engaged.
balance a game under those circumstances. Like, he thinks it's disaster. He thinks it's so close.
Well, I will say between lines, things are so balanced. Like you can play Senna, you can play Katarina. Okay, maybe it's slightly weak, I think, but like whatever.
Yeah,
You
but
can
that's
play
good. You
Seraphine,
don't want
you can
not
play
everything's-
Bard. Like
Yeah.
balance between lines is actually so decently balanced.
Which is what a lot of what I think Mort is trying to go for and communicate, which is really important of why you're able to identify that versus kind of the personal grievances of the patch. Noster, what do you think about Mort's statement? Agree?
Yeah, I personally completely agree. I've been around for a long time in this community, and I genuinely don't think we've had a patch that's been this close to being perfectly balanced whilst competitive is still going on, ever. I think that you can't ask for better balance, is where my opinion is. So,
Wow.
yeah, I would agree with this completely and utterly.
Oh, man. A resounding
Spicy.
agree. Oh, man. Not even a little bit of shade of agreeing. Bryce.
Oh God, I have like so many thoughts about this topic. As I was listening to them talk, I'm like agreeing sort of, disagreeing sort of, and I just have this is gonna be a long one. I'm gonna monologue a lot tonight, Dan. I apologize in advance.
All
Okay.
right, hit me with it. Try to keep it under 10 minutes.
I'll try to keep it under 10 minutes. I think I could do that. That seems reasonable to me. Okay, so first of all, I agree with the first half of the sentiment. I agree this is the most balanced TFT has ever been in terms of closest to a perfectly balanced patch we've ever gotten. I don't think this is going to be my favorite patch. I think on balance, I agree with Rain that even though it's a pretty subtle amount of changes that need to happen, if you load into TFT and you think to yourself, 10 out of 20 games, I'm going to be playing 2-cost reroll, I think something has gone wrong. And so I don't, even if it's not 10, even if it's 8 or 7, that still sounds like a really high number. I think that
more than 10.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. But whatever it winds up being, I'm very clear it's going to be too high. We'll have to see how regionals plays out. Because in fairness, while the two of you did very well last weekend, playing a lot of 2-cost reroll, the person who played the best tournament was Rereplay, and he played none. So I think that they hit his line pretty hard, and I think that he taught a lot of people how to play his line and gave up a lot of his edge just from having his tournament VOD exist. But I think we'll have to see how bad the Heartsteel nerfs are and whether or not if you play it at a first class level, you can get beyond it. That being said, I really, really disagree with the second half of Mort's statement. When he says he thinks, for full transparency, yes, this is about as close to balance as TFT can be, I really disagree with that. And I think that for a long time, they didn't have the resources they had. And so, and sets, because they were doing mid sets, were shorter when you think about balancing those things independently. So it was hard to get to full balance states. So now we have more time on it. They're better at it. They have more resources put into it. I tweeted at the very beginning of the set that I thought it was like the best opening balance. And I was excited to see how good balance would get by the end of the set. I think that they have done an overall really good job, but I think there's like a small misstep here that's shaping the regionals meta to be something that I don't think is the most skill expressive version of TFT. And I do agree with people who said earlier that Mort does focus a lot on in-game comp balance, and I agree with Rain that is in a really good state overall. There's some stuff that I wish was different though. Still, like there's some 1-cost reroll that could maybe be a little bit better. Like there's some 3-cost that I think could be a little bit better. I don't think the executioner line needed nerf. I like that 6 executioner was a line. I think giving another 3-cost out was a good thing for the meta. I think MF could be buffed a little bit. I think that's not really a serious unit that you play around outside of like rolling for her in Bard basically. And I think that the 4-costs are a little bit weak. And I think I say all that like it's simple, and I know it's not simple. I know that you changed, like Rain's talking about being the closest balanced patch, and it's really problematic. I feel the same way. I'm not saying I could do a better job. I'm saying that I think that this team with more swings at longer sets like this are going to do better than this. I think we will get to a patch that feels like it is early game is wide open. There's certain things that are amazing right now that have never been this good. Items have never been this good. If you look at the items balance, almost everything is slammable. Like when I look at the list, the only obvious item that feels like it needs a buff to me is Bramblefest. I never see anyone build that item, right? But otherwise, like, and maybe it's good. Maybe it's good. I don't know. Maybe every single item here is like genuinely really slammable and playable, which is awesome. But I think that like perfectly balanced TFT is you can play really wide in the early game, really wide in the mid game, really wide in the late game, lots of viable strategies. 4-cost is kind of your default. I agree with what Rain said that like you should always be looking for reroll. You should always be rewarded for finding those lines and playing them well, but that's not the heart of TFT. So for me, it's hard for this to be the best patch ever. Okay. I think that's probably where I am.
Okay, I won't elaborate too much. Chat agreed 70-30 split, and I think people who disagree probably just have disagreements about parts of it because it's hard to always fully agree with a big block of words like this. I'll just say one thing, is that a lot of what Bryce says, I think represents what I think, represents a lot of what the podcast thinks, represents probably what most people think about in this chat. But I have to just say one thing, and this is just me putting devil's advocate because I think it's my responsibility as the host of this podcast. A lot of players disagree with what Bryce just said at his core. They don't want TFT to be like that. They don't want the end game balance between lines is what they're looking for because they want to be able to feel like this is the game that I want to play a Seraphine reroll, and it went really well. And now next game I queue up, I can get a novel experience by trying Senna instead. And that very subtle aha of like, okay, they actually use kind of similar items and similar setup is enough of an ingenuity, right? To feel like, wow, that's great. I love TFT. Because that's where most people's investment in the game stops. But for us, that's where it feels like it begins. When you first make that connection, you want to make that you want to replicate that aha moment like dozens of times. And when you realize that you can do that for 35 minutes at a time, that's when TFT becomes truly beautiful in our eyes. But for most people, it stops. And that's why, Bryce, that's why Marvel movies are successful and they do so many of them ad nauseum. That's why people refuse to make anything besides like the sequel to the most least hit video game, Call of Duty 102. It is why TFT struggles, and therefore I have to agree with him because Mortdog at his core, when he's saying he can't please everybody, he's basically talking to us. I know he's not talking to anybody but us directly.
I really disagree with this though, because I agree with the sentiment that it's really important to speak to both audiences. I just don't think that making the game beautiful for the 0.001% actually impacts the lower elo experience in any material way, because people aren't in their lobbies playing, doing these crazy like cooking things to find edge. And so the gameplay is pretty similarly set to set. Even when Flex TFT is really good, people commit early, people are like playing line suboptimally, etc. So for me, I think you can I think Punk as a trait is one of the biggest home runs that I can remember in such a long time. It was never oppressive or never really felt oppressive at high elo. It's beloved in low elo. It dominates low elo in play rate, enjoyment. It is such a good, and it's still actually had a relevant to the high elo just as kind of early game most of the time, right? Like there's early game to play around Punk, and I'm kind of good with that. I think that's a really well done trait. So I think you can have your cake and eat it too here. I really think that this is it's a false dichotomy, I guess is what I would say.
I understand that. And what I'm trying to say is that TFT is one of the games. I just want to say one thing, and then we can kind of put it to best here because I think we have to kind of move on. But I would say that TFT is one of the games that caters to the 0.001% the most out of any of this type of game. Competitive multiplayer, there's the esports competitive scene, and it's mainly focused on ranked multiplayer, like everything about it. You'd be very surprised how much it caters to it. And I think we could stand to cater a little bit more towards it for the success and longevity of the game. That's just the reality we have to face. But that's a different discussion, and maybe we should bring more eventually. We can.
I would love to have this conversation with Mort. Actually, this would be such a great conversation to have with him.
Wow. Okay, so that was a lot with the agree section. We're just gonna go ahead. It says stage 4 because we usually do this towards the very end, but we're gonna get it out of the way because there's a lot to go through. The second one was right under this tweet. Clement said, "Here's my list of changes," and he said a bunch of different things, but that's not the agree. The agree was what he said at the very end, which I thought was so interesting. Right under it, Clement, a caster for the APAC region for SEA, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, etc. He said set 8.5 was the pinnacle of the world's patch balance. So he's like, I don't agree that this is where we're close, like, but we're close. He says, I think set 8.5 specifically in his mind was the pinnacle. And that's fascinating because that might be the first time I've heard that besides myself, Bryce. You told me, I tell you all the time, right? 8.5 Worlds was really good for the patch balance. You were disengaged, so you wouldn't know.
I'm so sad. I missed this patch that like you and someone else I really respect in their opinion about TFT both thought was the best patch. I'm so fucking sad.
I was so surprised. The second person on the planet has finally said it, and as far as I know. So you already know where I stand. I don't have to say it much. Let's go ahead and head over to Rain and Start with Noster here.
The balance in 8.5, I have no clue because every Worlds rolls around, I usually don't play TFT. Like that's when I usually take my break. I usually stop playing. So I really do not know much about balance during the patch because I usually just like fuck off and go play something else. And then I just watch Worlds. So I feel like I don't really have an opinion here.
Okay. So you watch Worlds. Can you give a very uneducated, just like slight agree or disagree based off your first impression of it?
Maybe an uneducated agree, very hesitantly agree. Just based on watching, not really any anecdotal.
Yeah, just your impression of it. It looked just like there was a fairly good balance. Okay, cool. Rain, what do you think?
I'll preface this with saying that my time watching competitive is a lot shorter than like everyone else this year. So for example, like I didn't even start watching until end of set 6, I think. Like literally set 6 regionals.
Which I think is fair,
it's really funny
because that's considered to be modern TFT. Like, balance got a huge change when Augments entered into the mix. And so it feels like pre-Augment TFT was almost a different era. So I do think that's fair. If you watched in set 6, I think you have a good opinion on it. You have an educated opinion on it.
Then, yeah, I think I agree, because I'm just trying to think of the other metas during Worlds. And obviously, I wasn't like necessarily as good at playing set 6, but like I think set 6.5 was like, it was Sivir Lottery. set 7, there were some. I mean, I remember it very well, but there were some comps that were definitely like just
Guardians.
heads and shoulders above everything else. At set 9, I'm having a little bit of a hard time, but I think it was the Demacia lottery, basically.
TF. People would
Yeah,
play
it was the
Legends.
Demacia lottery. I don't even think TF was even that dominant during the
No,
the
but
World
people play
Championship. I think-
multicasters a lot.
No, but like I feel like that thing, like I think
Yeah, it didn't.
these
do
got
that
like
well.
nerfed a
Yeah.
bit,
It did.
like too hard.
It did, but people still did that. Like actually,
Yeah.
specifically, one China player still played TF every
Hmm.
game, but it was Earth.
Hmm.
Which,
Yeah, but like
if there's 8 Earth per lobby, Earth averages 4.5.
you're right.
Food for thought.
It's true. So yeah, compared to the other worlds, I think the other worlds have been like somewhat misses, if anything. Every single worlds has had like, I think the other worlds like set 6, 7, and 9 worlds, like there's been like slight misses on something that just like last second pops up and like starts to dominate. So yeah, I think set 8 worlds was the pinnacle of worlds bounce.
And North America won it. Just putting it out there. Okay, Bryce.
I really didn't. I don't have an opinion on this. I just didn't watch it. I'm sad. I'm sad that I didn't. I'm really sad that I didn't. It was like I watched the very end because Rereplay and Setsuko were popping off, and I really wanted to see NA win. So I wanted to root for us, but like I had no fucking idea what was going on while watching it.
All right. I like that Rain walked it down, and I'm very much agree. Set 5, so Rain already talked about set 6 to 9. Set 5 was colored through, well, Kled, Milk, one-tricking, Hard Force one-tricking, and almost pulling it off. And no one else really could, so that was the impressive part about it. And it was also closest at the time that North America had gotten to it. And then 4.5, as many may know, was basically like 2 forecasts that were extremely dominant, or specifically it was like Olaf and Slayers, and then you would basically play that, or you would go into Keepers, I believe, or was it Executioner or KO, one or the other. And set 4.5 is not considered to be very good in that sense. It was fun. I think 4.5 was actually still fun. I think they also just felt like it was a little bit too slanted. And then 3.5, my memory kind of fades. Actually, that's the worlds I didn't watch, actually, because Double 61 ended up winning that one. I can't comment on that. So I think 8.5 is the best.
I love it.
Chat said 50-50, by the way. So looks like they were split down the middle. No one actually did. And now the last degree that we have trying to transitions us back into what we're here to do, which is talk about Heartsteel Cup. We're not actually here to just talk about the state of TFT in general. But this one was not my doing. This one's actually offered up by Bryce. So Rereplay has won the Heartsteel Cup. And if you guys saw what happened on the stream earlier, he came onto my regular stream to talk a little bit about where he belongs in the conversation for North America in terms of top players. So the final agree is Rereplay belongs in the same tier as Setsuko, Dish Soap, and Weijin. And when we specifically talk about this tier, we're talking about the elite of the elite, the creme de la creme, the very top of North America. Because right now, it's, in many people's eyes, a 3-horse race. And Rereplay is saying for a long time that he belongs in there. So let's start off with the others, and then we can go into Bryce, because Bryce wants to go last, and he actually has a lot to say about it. So we'll start off with Rainplosion. What do you think? After Replay's performance at Heartsteel Cup, his consistency over the past year and winning the World Championship, does he belong in that same tier?
Oh no, past controversy. Damn, this one's hard. I mean, the main problem, like, I think everyone has always had with putting him in the same tier as Setsuko, Dishope, and Weijin is that it's really hard to watch his excellence because his solo queue games are troll as fuck. And even when he's talking about the game, I'm pretty sure this guy's trolling half the time. And like, I can't tell if he's being an idiot or like being just trolling. And I'm pretty sure he's trolling, but like you know, it's only like 90% sure, you know. like what if he's actually serious? I don't know. I don't think I can, just because like I don't like I think it's fine if you put him fourth, but like. I don't know. It's just hard for me to put him in the same tier as Setsuko, Dishope, and Weijin because, with those players, you can literally like watch their excellence, and with replay, it's like, I don't know. Half the time, this guy acts like an idiot, and like I think he's just putting on an act, but who knows?
You think? Okay.
I just bother
Interesting.
him,
So
and I think
is like
I
a
think he played
disagree, but like a slight one. You're like kind of a.
Okay, I'm
Kinda
just saying,
hesitant?
if we had more tournaments and I actually had more chances to study this guy, like I mean, I don't know, I'm down to agree. Like I think his Heartsteel Cup, he played phenomenally from the 3 games that I personally VOD reviewed, but like
Okay.
I don't know, I don't get the opportunity to watch it, like to VOD review this guy much, because like I don't think it's worth VOD reviewing his stream VODs.
Interesting. You're not the first person to say that, by the way. It's actually been a common sentiment across. Noster, you're up next.
Okay, so he said something when he was on here last week, I believe, that he said, if you're not gonna believe in yourself, then who is? When he ranked himself number 1.
Mhm.
And I kind of agree with that in the sense that I think a lot of the time these rankings are a little bit
You can say
not
it.
overdone, but I think that when it comes to ranking players, I think that it's just so much, how much does somebody bring in that specific tournament or at that specific time, that is so kind of hard to quantify, that I think people like Setsuko and Dishop have consistently showed up with. And I think to put somebody that's won Worlds and has won, I think, 2 other tournaments besides that, I think that you have to, if somebody has won World, I think you have to put them in this group. I think to not put them in this group is too disrespectful.
So you agree on principle. You agree on principle.
I agree on principle. Yes.
Okay. By the way, before Bryce starts, I like what Kia said. He said, disagree. Rereplay is better than these frauds. This man won Worlds.
Holy.
Wait, Dan,
Frankly, that might be true. I mean, winning Worlds is the pinnacle.
It is the
Okay,
pinnacle. It's something
Dan,
that none of these people have done yet. And I'm going to go real quick because Bryce wants to kind of go as well. I think right this very second, yes, but this can easily change to a no in a week after when regionals happens. He basically has the opportunity. I think the door's open. The chat actually is a 53-47 split. People are ready to be convinced, man. People are ready to be convinced. I think you've been given the moment. You've also talked yourself up so big. I'm ready to put you there. But you gotta do something good here, right now. Especially if you're not bluffing. Rereplay also is on the stream saying he's probably gonna take set 11 off. If you're not bluffing about that, then this is your last chance. And after that, if you could have egg on your face in the moment, I don't know if that door will open up again for a while, because yeah, you had 2 really hot streaks, but these guys are consistently at the top 3, and it almost feels like it's ironclad. So you have a very brief moment. A ray of light is shining down. What are you going to do about it? We'll find out in 7 days. I'm a slight agree. Bryce, the stage is set for you.
Okay, so backstory is important because this is going to be the longest I've ever talked on the show. I'm apologizing in advance. I've tapped for long times. Noster, sit back, relax, buddy, pour yourself a drink. This is the only thing I've ever prepped in the history of the show. I've always done everything off the cuff 100%, unless you're counting like my fantasy value thing.
Legendary yapping incoming.
It is. It's legendary. I have to tee it up as such. Like, I did a lot of research on this afternoon. I wanted to make sure I fully saw the board. So the reason why is because not once now, but twice, Replay has brought this conversation kind of to me directly. Like, there was one time he came in my Discord DMs. He was very upset with me for the way in which I was talking about his play. He felt like he clearly belonged in the top 3, and he couldn't see how I couldn't see that. And then we had a similar conversation on stream after his Heartsteel win. How many days ago was this? Like a couple days ago, right? 2 days ago? So part of the problem is that when Replay became good, it was also when I wasn't watching TFT. His best TFT, it sounds like, was 8.5, and I didn't get to watch it. So and like Rain said, I really was excited to study this guy, and I watched his ladder games, and I was really not excited to study this guy anymore because his ladder play is not very good. And I had heard all this great thing about his play, but I wasn't seeing it. in his games that I was watching on ladder. And so it was hard for me to evaluate him. But just on what it felt like his ceiling was in tournaments where I got to watch some of his play and like Dan's glowing recommendation, I always took him pretty seriously, ranked him pretty highly, drafted him on fantasy teams. I thought he was good. So he feels like he belongs there. I want to give him a fair shot at that. So in order to do that, I did two things. One, I watched all 16 of his games at Heartsteel Cup. I watched all 12, 13 games? 13 games, 13 right?
Games.
Well, six and then 7. So I watched all of his Heartsteel games for days 3 and 4 because I wanted to really watch his play. And I did a deep dive on all of the data that would be pertinent to this question. So let's answer the question. Does Rereplay belong in tier 1? So Dan, can we pull up the ladder stats first?
Okay, I didn't put set 10, but I have 4 because 5 doesn't fit. So
okay, that's fair. That's fine. It's honestly, it's a really similar graph. It's going to be too small on screen, I think, this way, but I can give you the gist of what this looks like. Okay,
I'll zoom it up. Here we go.
Zoom it up, by all means. So the graphs tend to look pretty similar. This is Darth Noob's ladder data over the course of the entire set of the sets that are relevant. So Replay has started playing since set 8. So this is the data graphed out. Set 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5. I also gave Dan 10. Thank you to Darth Noob for the data. I really appreciate it. It's insane that he keeps this. He has it for like hundreds of people, by the way. He has like such insane data. So this is what their LP journey is plotted out over the course of the set. And you will see very clearly that there are 2 people who are tier 1, 1 person who is tier 2, and 1 person who is tier 3. Tier 1 is Jisop and Setsuko. They are just preposterously consistent. Obviously, this kind of ebbs and flows. It goes back and forth. But the light blue and the orange line are on top for the majority of these things, outside of decay and, random blips. Okay, Weijin is very clearly the next line down. He's the green line that kind of flows through the middle. Sometimes he's higher. A lot of times he's kind of in between. And Replay is by far the weakest ladder player, by far. I think that is because he doesn't take ladder seriously, but I do have to pay attention to it. It is relevant data because it's the highest volume by far, right? So I think it is at least relevant to the conversation about whether or not he belongs in tier, even though I personally value tournament data more. So now let's go to his tournament data.
Okay, tournament data right here. Thanks to ProTFT.com.
Thanks to ProTFT.com. Okay, so there's a couple different ways we can look at tournament data. Okay, the first way we can look at tournament data is by the actual aggregate statistics. Personally, I believe this is a better way to look at the data because there's a lot of like arbitrary cutoffs that happen in TFT where you like get tie broke in or out, and a lot of ways in which like the way finishing top 8 is great, but did you barely get in top 8, or were you like really high? It's hard to calculate like your overall points. Like you have a pop-off day, you score 45 points. Just advancing in tournaments doesn't fully tell that story. Like it's relevant if you're capable of, if your top end is really high. So I think that the aggregate data is the best way to look at it. I think that the stats they give us here are the best stats that we would care about. Average position, overall performance in the game, top 1 percentage, winning games is a really important strategy, closing, and then top 4, how consistent are you? And in every single one of these categories, Rereplay is the weakest of the 4 players. Now, his stats are really good. A 3.9 over this period of time, so that's 8, 9, and 10, are really good stats. But he is very clearly below Setsuko, Weijin, and Jisop. Now, part of this is an arbitrary line drawing exercise. Just because he's below them doesn't mean in this area doesn't mean he's not tier 1. Maybe it's 4 people in tier 1, not 3, right? So I think that's part of the data, and I think he's weaker in this area. I also have to note that his data is skewed favorably because he is the only player on this list to have played in weekend 1, where the lobbies are much weaker. Now, ironically, his stats actually improve when you take out his weekend games slightly. He actually does not pop off in these opening weekend games. I don't consider that a mark in his favor. I consider that a mark against him. You should have better data. The next on this list is Kane Drew in terms of AVP. And the reason why his AVP is really good is because he plays a lot of games against weaker people. So maybe Replay is just not taking it seriously, but like
catching strays again. Leave the man alone.
I'm not trying to. I'm just
Damn
saying
it, he's already dead.
I'm just saying it's relevant, right? Like he doesn't get to just decide when he cares and only want to be evaluated based on when he cares. Like he should be playing better against opening weekend players. And he's the only player on this list to have busted day 1 or day 2, and he busted day 1. And that is a big mark against you. I don't know what to say. Like, that is Jisop Weijin and Setsuko would never. They would never day one a tournament. There is no fucking way if you made them play day one, they're day one. If they're playing at all seriously, even if they're not playing seriously, they're not going to. So I think that's a mark against them. Okay, so now let's talk about the wins in final lobbies. Setsuko has the most wins. Weijin and Replay are the others with wins. One of his wins is Worlds. That's a really fucking big deal. Winning Worlds is a really, really big deal. He gets a ton of value for that, right?
Yep.
But it's just one tournament in a game of really high variance. So there's only so far I can value that. Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker. No one who knows anything about poker thinks that Chris Moneymaker is good at poker. I don't think that's what happened in Replay. I don't think Replay got lucky. I believe that it was skill expressive, and I believe that Replay popped off that set. I am saying, though, that one tournament, it's hard for me to overvalue when someone who just barely missed at NA regionals could have easily gone and done really well. Like, there's a lot of variables there. So I give him, it's the most valuable tournament win, but it doesn't mean that I automatically put him in tier 1A. There were people who have come close to winning Worlds that were not that good. And then he likes talking about final lobbies a lot. Setsuko's the most. He's clearly the second most. Weijin and Dish Soap are gapped. I think when you add top 16, this stat does not look nearly as favorable to him. I think it's kind of an arbitrary cutoff, like 8 versus 16. Yeah, it's final lobby, but like, is finishing 8th that much better than finishing 9th? Not really. And so I think, Weijin and Dish Soap have had a lot more top 16s and haven't gone to final lobby, so he gets points for this. And then the weekend one play you see at the bottom. So for me, in this area, Dish Soap seems the weakest because Dish Soap has no tournament wins. That does say something. I do think there's RNG there, but that definitely says something. And he's also the fewest final lobbies as well, which also says something. It does matter, the 16 to 18 gap. So I think in this area, it's pretty clear that Replay does belong in that same tier. I don't know how, based on like looking at wins, final lobby performance, looking at games this way, you could say he doesn't belong there. And I also think that there's a fairly significant gap if you add top 16s in final lobbies versus anyone else, which would also suggest tier 1, this is the 4.
Okay.
Okay, so
Bryce,
wait,
agree or disagree?
No, I'm not done. I apologize, everybody.
Sorry.
So no, you're good.
We
So
need an intermission.
That's just the stats. So now the eye test. Okay, I watched all of his games. Okay, this was not a lucky win. He played the best TFT at Heartsteel Cup. He had huge edge over the field. His stage 2 play was better than a ton of people. He preserved HP way better than people, and he was by far the best AD flex player. I think Setsuko was probably the next best, and I think it's probably not by far in Setsuko. I think they're probably pretty close, but I think that there's a huge gap after them in terms of how well they play that line. He bought way more units on his roll down than most players, and he got way more stable in stage 4 than other players did playing the same way. So it was a completely deserved win. In some ways, it was ridiculously impressive TFT. But he also made more mistakes over the course of those 13 games than you will see a player of the tier 1 make. I'm talking about mistakes that Twitch chat's going to point out, right? I'm talking about mistakes that are like, he got this unit trapped, or Zed had to walk all the, Sunfires and Narnia, or Zed had to walk all the way around a fight to get into it off of like kind of obvious positioning stuff. So he had a couple of games. He had a Kayle game that was a disaster. He had a TF game that was a disaster. He really only looked good on AD flex, but he looked really good on AD flex. Even while making these mistakes, he was so far ahead of people in terms of how he approached it, what items he was slamming, how he played into the line, the different combinations of the boards that he would play was really good. So that's my eye test. I didn't get to watch him play a ton of TFT before. I've watched his stream play badly. His stream play is not very good. I've watched this, and his highs were insanely high. He also had some low lows. So where I wind up on this question to decide whether or not I agree or I disagree is I agree with Dan that that this week it's make or break. For me right now, he is barely out of the same tier as them. I think the stats gap and the consistency gap over the course of these tournaments, I penalize him for the weekend one stuff. But I think that his skill ceiling as a player when he is locked in is as high as Setsuko's and higher than Weijin's or Dish Soap's right now. And so for me, if he has a good regionals, especially after like teaching the whole fucking server how to play AD flex properly, like everyone watched these games or should have, then if he finds edge enough to do it at regionals, I don't know how you could possibly leave him out, even if he's slightly worse on the overall statistics. Because I don't think he's giving you his A game as often as these guys are, but I think that his A game stands up to there's no questions asked. Okay, that's it. Sorry that was wrong. I wanted to have a thorough answer, and I couldn't think of another way to do it. So here we are.
All right.
I
all
apologize,
right.
everybody.
I appreciate some good yapping.
Yeah, that was legendary tier. Okay.
Can I
Now,
just
do
add-
we agree with Bryce? All right, let's just cut it there. Let's just cut it there. Now we can't keep going on this. First of all, thank you, Bryce. I think we did a really thorough investigation. And I also appreciate, yeah, you guys can call it yapping, but Bryce puts in the research. A lot of people who yap, they're doing things off a very surface level or even completely uninformed commentary on it. So Bryce, I think that was really good. Also, I do think that it's interesting that Bryce and I fall basically like within that same range, but I think I'm slightly in as opposed to slightly out. But I think it's like a 51-yard mark in a football field level thing. It's like fourth and inches to me right now.
Totally good.
And I want to see him convert. I would love more players at the elite territory. I think NA is better with a bigger elite tier. I'm not trying to gatekeep. I want more reasons to do that. I want Rain to reclaim her set 7 form when she was a world's contender. I would love Noster to put on the largest final lobby streak we've had in NA history. He's right now at 2. If he gets there 3 or 4 times, he's up there with Setsuko. I would love to see that consistency.
Yeah, okay. I thought I was like, wait a second, is it only 3? I feel like somebody surely has done like 4.
No, I think it's 3
5.
right now, and
Really?
I think it's
I mean, it's
Setsuko.
not-
But
not
I have to
that
go
surprising, I guess.
and fact check. Socks might have that as well, but I have to go into that check. Either way, I would love to do that, and that's partially why we did disagree, because with that being said, let's talk about some Heartsteel Cup and how people's experiences with. We did this in a really different order than usual. Hope you guys enjoy that. Rereplays in chat, by the way, having a good time. Also, I'm really sorry, Kendra. I don't know how, but like no matter what happens, your name gets brought up and it somehow seems like you're excluded or dunked on. I don't know how, but maybe we can edit in some nice thing. Maybe Yenwei can do like a nice little thing for you in the post up, the post edit. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about, first of all, day 3 for Heartsteel Cup. So Noster, you came in. Can you just give a little bit of background of what gave you the edge in terms of, or what gave you the lead to get that edge? Like what first tipped you off about Seraphine and all the Spellweaver stuff? Like how did you know that was going to be so much better than everything else?
Okay. I don't actually think going into the tournament that I thought Seraphine was good. And if you watched that day back, I really didn't have that much practice. I just knew that Heartsteel was not good. And what I mean by that is if there are like 5 people playing Heartsteel,
right,
I'd rather play some reroll comp that I could consistently go top 5 worst case scenario than go gamble like a 4.2 average Heartsteel
right
in my eyes.
Like a 60% top 4 rates,
yeah,
but like a high percent chance for going 8th, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, understood. Rain, what was your general approach to this tournament as well? Because you got top 8 on day 3 and day 4.
So I fucked up on my prep for the tourney. I thought the patch was going to be a bigger patch, so I took the previous patch kind of off. So the day the patch launched, I looked at the patch notes, I studied them, I started locking in, I was like, wait, nothing changed. And then so I was like, so I didn't even know Kayle was a comp until 2 days before the tourney. And I played one Kayle game, and I was like, okay, bet, I'm playing Kayle every game. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play Kayle every game, and I actually forgot everything that happened this weekend because like I was on 4 hours of sleep, so it's kind of hard to remember things. All I remember is that I stayed away from playing Pentakill, even though there were a lot of people in my ear telling me that Pentakill was secretly broken. Then I played I think I played mainly 80 flex and 2 cost AP reroll. I think were the 2 lines I played the most.
Okay.
And then I forgot all about day 1 because I was on 4 hours of sleep.
And you had a lot of success, and I got a little bit of testimonials as well as the usual stuff that we like to do, but I do want to show the standings. One thing about the top 16, and Bryce and I usually like to kind of talk about people's performances here as a gap. The thing that we have to shout out is that Kurum landed top 16, which is great. And, you know, it's something that we expected him. Top 16 is actually exactly where Kurum is always like contending and trying to push for final lobby or more. But he missed regionals. He needed to actually go beyond that. He needed to get top 4 or like something incredible happened where like a series of events where he could get in with just maybe like a 5th or something, but will not be joining us for the first time. And that's a streak that was one of the last few that's standing.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everyone has missed the regionals, or at least not has been there. Kurum's been there since the very beginning, Bryce.
Incredibly impressive. A lot of people kind of overlook Kurum sometimes, but the level of consistency he's brought to TFT has been, close to unrivaled. I don't think he played his best TFT this set, but I think he'll be back. So maybe he, breaks are good sometimes. That's a lot of not taking regionals off. It's a lot of extra work to sweat for regionals.
He's already restless. He DM'd me. He's like, I want to join the regionals call. I want to show up and cast. And I'm just like, all right, well, it's unfortunate because we kind of booked a little bit, but we'll see if we can work him in. More on that in a little bit. Also not shown here, but we're going to talk a little bit about it in a little bit. T-Lide's barely outside that top 16. Need to get just a little bit higher for his qualifier points. T-Lides won't be joining us at regionals. Do want to give a shout out to Protect School and the Farmer, some of their best results yet, and as well as Ramkev, Dishsoap, Kyvix, Robovan, Kenobi, and Wajan. It's funny that they're all blocked around here. I called this tier the reminders because reminders that all these players are accomplished, strong, but punctuated by Ramkev's strong performance in a top 10, I think is outstanding. I would love to see more Ramkev, especially because he specifically went out of his way to not play Heartsteel, kind of like Noster and Rain all weekend long. So well done.
But in a different way, he did it like Ramkev does it. He didn't play the clearly on meta stuff that they played. He did it playing a whole bunch of other random stuff.
Yes. One of the most impressive games for Ramkev was he played a punk reroll, but the way he played it was so weird. It wasn't like Jinx at all. He actually went Twitch punk. And then it was like a pivot, and then found a way to really make it work. It was super doom. We were watching it. It was one of the cooler games. Rain, you were saying something before we cut you off.
Oh, I mean, I'm under the impression that I avoided Heartsteel. I think I played at least a third of my games were Heartsteel games. It was just that if I don't have the Heartsteel, if I don't grab an AD opener, I will. I don't think I'll be playing as much now since the Heartsteel nerfs. At least back in Heartsteel Cup, I was happy to play Heartsteel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was good. Well, here's the final lobby recap. In case you haven't heard, Rereplay won with this pretty significant gap, 3 points over everybody else, with no bonus points.
No bonus.
That's the punctuation. No bonus points. Robin got second, and that's a great result, but Robin, by his own admission, was high rolling all weekend and got second with bonus points. Billy, great job by Billy. First top podium finish, 41 points, and then Noster, of course, and everyone had those bonus points to really help them. Egon, also a really impressive performance with 40. Best result that he's had since set 4. The last top 8 he had was back in the regionals in set 4. So really, really impressive by him. Lemon VIP was the only person I reached out to that didn't respond to me, so I don't know much. Is anybody here familiar with Lemon VIP? No, so you're grinning.
No, I'm not at all.
Oh, okay. You're just memeing in chat.
He's grinning.
Well, I know. I was saying, so can I just say, Robin? Me and Robin might have a problem in the future. We might have a problem. This guy sold his whole board, cleared everything out, for fun mode active, just clearing the way for this Billy guy to get first place. Listen, man. I respect it, but at the same time, the guy owes me if I ever meet him, he owes me like a meal or something.
Minimum meal and the
drinks.
Dessert.
All you can drink.
For people who don't know, the very last game, you can see Billy Kincaid got first place, 8 points, and Robin got second. In this moment specifically, where there's a little bit of controversy because Robin had a souped up level 10 Jazz board, and Billy had Last Stand, That's Jazz, Baby, Scaling, Bard, and MF. And Robin sold his entire board to chase Alawi 3 and got a second because he missed. I think he had 8 Alawis, and unfortunately he lost in that situation. And he was going for a big highlight moment. However, there's speculation about whether or not, one, Robin is allowed to do that, right? Is that influencing competitive integrity? 2, if he had not sold his board, he probably could have beat Billy's board as well. But even though it had Last Stand, and it's sort of ambiguous, right? It's one of those things that you have to kind of use your TFT knowledge, but theoretically, he has one of the strongest boards in the game possible, so Robin should be able to win. If he won, Noster would get a higher placement and more prize money. That's what Noster's referencing. And 2, and this is where we're going to bring up the testimonials, that actually would have, I think, stopped a player from going to regionals, and T-Lives would have gotten in instead because of the way the standings shook out. So Robin doing that and going second in that game effectively cost T-Lives regionals. And we actually had a response from T-Lives. I messaged him early this week. I asked him for some thoughts. I said, hey, you don't have to respond if you want, but he was gracious enough to do so. T-Lives said, to be honest, Heartsteel was hard. I lost top 16 by 1 point, which would have guaranteed me regionals, which is already a kicker in the nuts. I know in each game I could have probably played a +1 placement on the micro thing, so ultimately it is my fault. Then watching and seeing I might have a chance if Robin wins, and watching the game chance get thrown by going for a Lowy 3 was very discouraging. Who knows if Robin would have even won once he procced Last Stand, though. I think he's being very fair in that. Ultimately, I don't blame Robin. He had no idea. I just blame myself. So you heard it from T-Lives, and you heard it from a lot of people with rational minds. It's not like Robin's like, you know what I should do right now? I should stop T-Lives from going to... There's nothing like that whatsoever. And a very unfortunate set of circumstances, but that unfortunately did cost T-Lives his regional spot, Bryce.
Yeah, that's a huge bummer. Huge bummer. I'm sad we won't have T-Lights at regionals. I'm sad this is how it happened. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't blame Robin.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just joking around. Like, I mean,
it's not serious either.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, he's like, I'll be serious on behalf of him. Robin, buy this guy like a Uber Eats meal or something.
Also, I'd like to just chime in on that. I mean, I guess you can't know for certain, but I'm almost like certain that the fight is not close with Last Stand, and Billy wins every time.
Okay. Fair enough. So you want to put the vote in the other camp, which is like it didn't matter.
No,
Robin should have. That was actually Robin's best play.
Well, the last time Robin fought Billy was 3 turns ago. Robin hasn't made any upgrades to his board because he's literally 2-starred all his legendaries. Billy has since then hit Lucian 2 from Lucian 1, gotten 3 more stacks of That's Jazz, and gotten a full combat prismatic. I don't think it's close.
Okay. All right. We got some other testimonials, by the way, from the champ himself, Rereplay. I asked him, what are your thoughts on Heartsteel? He said, believe in yourself, Pago. That's all he said.
Agreed.
Which in Spanish would translate to believe in yourself, moshers, because apparently mosher in Spanish is Pago. I messaged Robin. Robin said, I was feeling a bit unconfident going into the tournament, but I'm glad everything clicked and I was able to perform. I'm pretty sure he asked ChatGPT to write a response for him.
Sounds right.
I mean, it was actually interesting because I wasn't sure if Robin was unconfident because his LP was kind of low relative to where he is. He was like at 1100, which is like 400, 500 short of where he usually lives. But piece it all together, and he did say he high rolled. He didn't actually mention it in this comment, but he did. Setsuko didn't respond officially, but he did say one comment in one of the chats that I thought was really interesting. Setsuko said, I don't know how to play anything besides level 8, sad face. Which I thought was interesting because Setsuko is feeling like he wasn't even in that good form, and then he was asking a bunch of questions like if he did something wrong in the last game where he went like 8th, the Heartsteel like raised the stakes, cash out. So we'll see. I think Setsuko is the most dissatisfied with his performance. I think he feels like there was a lot more left on the table. Not entirely sure. Egon said BT diff. I said lol. Okay, is that all? And he said, Aegon concerned, yeah. Your additional context, okay, is I love building it on Kate. SMH, some people are not believers.
Me. I'm pretty sure he's talking about me. I'm the non-believer.
Okay, so can you give a little context? What's going on?
I would like to take the point to ramp. Okay, I VOD reviewed Aegon. I VOD reviewed Aegon because I actually prepped a lot for this tournament. I VOD reviewed fucking everyone. Like, I was fucking studying the shit out of him, and like I'm voting for Aegon because he's forcing Riven every game. So like I'm not that's not gonna be my strategy. I don't want to force Riven every game, but like I want to see what he's doing on the line. Maybe he's got some edge that like he's doing wrong, and his edge is BT Kayle. BT Kayle. His edge is BT Kayle. Okay, so I need to make this clear. He has a choice. He's picked this final annual. He has a choice of 2 items. He's playing Riven. Okay, he has no magic damage on his team. He can either make adaptive helm plus Runeance for 3-item Kayle, and then he can adaptive helm I think it was his Mord, which is carrying his Even Shroud. Protect your Even Shroud and make Runeance Kayle, which I think is Kaylin's best item, by the way. or you can make BT Kayle and Shiv Garen. I don't like the BT Kayle.
Shiv the Garen.
I don't know, maybe with Shiv Mordekaiser or something. I forget. Whatever.
Okay. So wait, was it correct though when you watched out the line? Did you think to yourself, "Wow, this Aegon guy is cooking"?
It was correct because he got his Kayle accolade every single time, so he lived. I think there's a little bit you can do about the positioning to not get your Kayle accolade every single time.
Interesting.
Oh my God.
Most curious. By the way,
he was correct. It was Kayle. It was BT but like
it was a BT diff. And then the second thing is, you're not the only person who has VOD review Aegon and have had some choice words about some of the decisions and choices that he made.
I enjoyed that a lot. Thanks,
Replay watched one game of Aegon and then swapped the offset. I can't watch anymore. We also have a word from our rising star, Billy. Billy, kind of a lab member associate. Is that right, Rain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Billy,
Billy,
the lab server, so he's here now.
He's here. He's
we're
hanging
happy
out.
he did well.
I actually interviewed Billy after the tournament, by the way, and I got a chance to chat with him. Very lovely guy. He's like a Vietnamese, like NA resident, but like he's playing in NA, but kind of interface with the Vietnamese community, and that's huge. It's cool because the Vietnamese community is really great, and if I ever need a bridge to it, because he watches a lot of the Vietnamese streamers, for example, that could be one of our gateways. Billy said, my performance was a 7 out of 10, but I was lucky enough to make it to regionals. The best moment for me was definitely the 7th game where I ended up getting a first out of Crab Rave. Unexpected and emotional moments for me. Billy seemed like a sweet enough guy. So that was a very cool moment. And we wish Billy the best of luck going to regionals. And it's funny because I think a lot of people are underestimating him, but he did outperform a lot of the people that were on our power rankings. And Bryce, it is time to face the music, because in our power rankings, this is one of our lowest scores ever, 7 out of 15. Verdict, we did not know. The only people that were able to get to the top 16 were Setsuko, Weijin, Dish Soap, our top 3, Robin, Rereplay, Kurum, and Rainplosion, our weakest performance. So it turns out we were the frauds all along, the people who submitted the ballots.
Yep, we were. I agree.
Oh,
no defense.
Don't bet.
Well, because Rain submitted a ballot, she was part of the voting process.
No.
Yeah, unfortunately. But that's okay, because we did have a couple of people who performed a little bit better than the average. The Best Ballot Award for this edition. Last event, it was Rereplay. He actually had the best ballot for KDA Cup. This time, we have a two-way tie between Robin and Iniko, although I'm going to give a tiebreaker to Iniko because Robin didn't even rank Rereplay.
Well, Robin also ranked 14 players. I think he should get the tiebreaker. He ranked Kai Wang.
That is true. He's not eligible. Robin not only didn't follow the prompt because Kai Wang was not eligible to play in this cup because he was going to drop out, but he didn't rank Rereplay. I don't know. I'm giving it to Iniko because he ranked Rereplay 7th.
I agree.
He got there. But however, maybe that isn't the true best ballot because only one person got spot on with number 1. Rereplay got 6 of the 15 correct. But he did bank on himself, and that depends on how you value your ballot system. That could be the winner right there.
True.
All right, we don't have that much time to go over this next portion. We wanted to we always have a tradition on a review show to ask the players to submit their own top 15 rankings. Rain, we can actually bring up yours, and very quickly, this is your ballot from the Heartsteel.
Yeah,
I'd like to be clear. This is my ballot.
This is your ballot that you independently came up with on your own volition. Okay. What would you personally change about this ballot, if anything? Right now, you can change it now.
Oh, so like going into regionals or what?
Yeah,
or just in general, like it's your top 15. Like Socks, for example, I imagine is not on this anymore.
I mean, I think Rereplay deserves a solid 4th from me, for sure.
And you moved your soap down.
Or do you move Malala out of the top 4?
No. I think I would move Malala out of top 4.
Interesting.
I'd move Malala, like, I don't know, 6th, 7th. Replay. Okay, honestly, I'm down to give Replay a shot for regionals. I'm down to leave it. I'm down to put, like, fuck it, Setsuko, Weijin. Weijin, Setsuko, Replay, Dish Soap. I'm down. I'm down to leave it.
Weijin, Setsuko, Rereplay, and Dish Soap. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, like 5 through 15 is like too hard, so we can
just
do that some other time.
All right. Sounds good. Can you talk a little bit about Biri Biri? I feel like she's a player that people don't know about, and only 2 people power rank Biri Biri.
Okay, so
me and you.
I'd like to be clear. The reason that she's above me in my power ranking has to do with the fact that it's my power ranking.
Can you elaborate a
pretty
little
sure-
bit further?
I'm pretty sure these lab fuckers like went on ladder. So I think the exact story here is these lab fuckers went on ladder and then discovered for like the first time in like 8 months, Buri was 2 LP higher than me. So they put her above me in the power rankings.
Ah, a little rivalry. I see.
Hard to argue with that, Rain. She was statistically outmatched.
LP was
LP
basically the worst player.
So for the audio-only people, Weijin, Setsuko, Rereplay, Dish Soap, and then Prestivan, like Spencer, Rain, Kaivix, Ripple, like all these people are kind of like in this mix of 5-15. Soju, dead last, but he still made the top 15. Noster, your top 15. Let's go ahead and walk it through. Noster's top 15 starts at Setsuko, then Wei Sion. Noster at third. Noster put himself top 3. Malala, then Dish Soap, Rereplay in 6th. He's going to see that. And Robin in 7th. Then we have Rainplosion at 8. Weird. AK Forces Perfect Count. AK Padar Jesus. Goes by a lot of aliases. Soju in 10th. Robovan Kenobi in 11th. Prestivant, Pokigam, Kai Wang, and Kiyun in 15th. So, Noster, here's the first question. Where is the first gap that you insert in this power rankings? That's what we always ask.
So I was actually thinking about this list, like not even just the top people, just thinking about who I should be watching for regionals prep. And I was just thinking that this list is just rerollers. And I want to say, with the exception of Setsuko, who I think is in a great spot with this meta, because I think Heartsteel is going to be far less contested, and I think that's what he's going to specialize in, if I had to take a guess. I actually say with the gap would be at like 11-12 range, way down the list. I actually think that it's in such a reroll heavy meta, I think it's actually up in the air.
Interesting. So you think the number 1 through 12 are equally matched?
Is that your way of saying that you think it's higher RNG?
I think that there's more. Yeah. I think that people that can play reroll contested and just find better reroll lines are going to succeed better.
And you don't have Kiyun in the top 12? That's like one of his specialties.
I don't know if I believe in Kiyun right now. I mean, I put him on the list because I do believe in him, but...
All right. You know I'm a Kiyun
reason...
fan right now. I'm a Kiyun simp.
The reason that I put myself third is because of replay, okay? It is only because of replay.
Hold on. Don't blame somebody else for your ranking.
No. He's inspired by him.
I'm inspired by him. When he spoke, and if you don't believe in yourself, you don't stand a chance at all. That I took that to heart, and that is why I'm ranked 3.
Yeah, but he put himself number 1. You're saying that you're wild overconfident.
I don't care. I'm still higher than him on my list. I don't care.
Okay, but then why not gap after 3? Because if you believe in yourself, isn't that where it stops?
Oh, but I think that it's anyone's opportunity. I think that's the mentality. Is that I'm giving myself an equal opportunity.
Okay.
It's just a flip of a coin, man.
You can do it just like anybody else.
It's worth noting that Replay will be the other if I had to guess, if anyone else in that group non-rerolling, Replay is up there. But I also don't think Dish Soap will reroll as often. I think he really likes playing around 4 costs. Like the consistency of that in theory is appealing to him.
Yeah, Malala's and Scrim's playing a lot of Heartsteel, but we'll see. Interesting. Real quick, so you said after 12. What about Pokigam, Kai Wang then? Let's just talk about them very quickly.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that Forces Smurf accounts, Roby are real players. So the big misses here could definitely be like Soju, P-God, and Pocky, I think are the potential big misses if they are don't focus in on whatever they want to play. Okay.
They're the biggest X factors. And then you really respect Kai Wang in particular. He's not making a lot of people's top 15 lists, so I just think it's interesting. I feel like I'm starting the Kai Wang hype train. I did it last episode, so I'm interested in another person that also is on it.
I mean, the guy just doesn't troll. In my games, I don't see him troll at all. I've never seen him troll.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. Speaking of trolling, thank you so much, Noster, for that top 15. And you know what? I like that confidence rolling into regionals. Speaking of trolling, we might have a new record for worst fantasy results of our show's history.
Unlucky.
So if you think about it once more, I win again, setting another record. Wow. 4 out of 5 players who did not make it past day 1, and Ripple Overdrive barely going to game number 6 had to claw his way through before getting eliminated in the top 16, or top 32 rather. Rereplay not only won Heartsteel Cup, not only put himself first on the ballot, arguably winning best ballot, and not only arguably may have cracked the tier 1 of North America, but he also won our fantasy draft with 5 players through. Bryce, you take 3rd place. It was actually pretty convincing.
It's a good 3rd. I mean, yeah, it was convincingly gap, but my score is pretty good. 4 out of 5 to the final day. That's not bad.
It's not bad.
They were really good. This was a tough draft.
It was a tough draft, and I would say that where I think you did very well was get a lot of value off of things like the $1. I think that was good.
I'm really mad at myself because I got talked into Sox on the podcast. People were like hyping him, and I was like, I just want to. If Sox is good this tournament, I really want to have him on my team. He's a dad. Like, I'd love to root for Sox. But I would have picked Rain in that spot. I'm pretty sure that would have gone better. That would have gone better for me if I had just listened to my like pre-draft plan.
And I mean, okay, well, first of all, no one could anticipate that Sox would have gotten equivalent. I think he tied for last in the entire field, and so I think that there's that. And 2, it's funny because I was considering multiple people for this last pick for Degree, and neither of them made it out as well. So all players I was looking at did not.
Yeah.
Which means that there is something in the water. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but I think I won too much previously. There has to be a curse because my draft is really not that bad. It's really not. These players are not like all like likely to get day 3. So it turns out that I've discovered I am cursed, which means if anybody wants me to draft their opponents the next fantasy draft, hit me up because I have a newfound discovered power. If Rainplosion, you're like, hey, my group's looking a little tough. You want to draft some of these people in my lobby? You just gotta let me know because you gotta gas up whoever you think you don't want to do well. Because apparently my fantasy results cannot get worse. This is a historic low.
I just need to come up with this list by like next Thursday, right? We can.
Yes, next Thursday. Next Thursday episode. We don't actually have the graphic up, but do we have it confirmed, Bryce?
We have it confirmed.
Okay, that's right. We don't have it because we're at the end of the episode. The next episode is going to be February 22nd because, as you can see, we're on our way to the regional finals. I wish I had time to do it. I didn't have it today, actually. But our episode for regional finals will be K3 Soju and Kiyun as our special guests to preview the Remix Rumble regional finals. That's right. It's kind of a tradition. Soju once more wants to clear Bryce in the fantasy draft. The first time ever in set 9, Soju beat Bryce in fantasy.
He's on a winning streak.
He's winning streak.
He's only a 1-round streak, so no
it's a win
extra
streak nonetheless. It counts for shifting gears.
Yeah, I'm giving him 1. Spot him 1.
All right. So Soju wants revenge, and we're going to have Kiyun on. It's great because we don't really have Kiyun on very often. That's going to be next Thursday before regionals. Speaking of regionals, Bryce and I, for our unofficial but like kind of official co-stream, we're going to have Inigo fly up from California to be joining us live right behind me on the couches. And Broccoli is going to come down from Canada and come visit. So we're going to have them two as our special IRL guests. Inigo is going to be here all weekend. Bryce is going to try to be here all weekend. I believe he is.
Unless something goes horribly wrong, I actually have full coverage. It would be the first full TFT tournament I've watched in a long time. So fingers crossed.
And then Broccoli is going to join us for Saturday and Sunday. And we might have some special guests on call if we're able to weed them in. It's going to be full-ice production. It's actually exciting. I've had my producer come multiple times. We're really trying to make everything feel a lot better. It's not going to be like this magical thing. It's going to be ultimately the same product, but just a little better, which is ultimately the goal. All right, and just like that, we are at the end of yet another fantastic episode. Wow. All right, so let's go ahead and get some final thoughts to wrap up this bad boy. Noster, why don't you start us off?
I'm looking forward to the next weekend. I'm just gonna try and have fun. I think that if I have fun, I'll do well. I think the only mistake I can make is like trying too hard, and yeah, that's about it. Oh, and also I will contest you. I'm calling a line at 2-1, and I will contest you. I do not care.
This guy plays Survivor on and off the island.
Oh man, all right. He's declaring. Man, some people type it in 2-1 or even stage 1. Noster's typing it even before the first game starts.
This is why he came on the show. He wanted this platform for this moment.
I like it. All right, Rain.
I got the tech for next week. I'm playing Garen 2020. Don't contest, please.
Oh, whoa.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
All right, Rain's just trying to throw me off from drafting her. It won't work. You're on my radar. All right, Bryce.
This is a really fun show. Thanks for bearing with the insane monologue, you two. Rain, you're always a pleasure to have on. You're so funny. I love listening to you talk about TFT. Noster, I really enjoyed having you on. Man, this was a lot of fun. I hope we do it again sometime soon. I'm really, really happy to see you doing well and enjoying it more. I'm like really enjoying watching you play TFT this set. The last thing, Dan, I had a blast with you as always. The last thing I'm going to say is that while the purpose of the agree and all the research I did was really to decide whether or not replay went in tier 1 and I didn't want to muck up the answer, I have to say that in looking at the data, it is not really a tier 1 that includes a group of more than one person. Setsuko is tier 1A. His performance over the course of sets 8, 9, and 10, y'all, it's just fucking on every metric, ladder, tournament stats, the fucking final lobby percentage, the wins. He's fucking insane at TFT. He is a god. He is a god. So yeah, Setsuko tier 0 as far as I'm concerned right now.
Yeah. The true answer to Bryce's question, he exited before the show, was that the real answer is that the tier 1 isn't Rereplay, but it's neither Disob or Wage neither. It's actually just Setsuko. Everyone else is below. But hey, let's do regionals do all the talking.
Can't wait.
And if you guys miss any of our talking, please consider following us, youtube.com/@DTIYDK. I'm going to type it in chat. youtube.com/@DTIYDK. We're close to 1,000 subs. That gives us opportunity to upload faster, gives us YouTube partner, which gives us preferences and a bunch of across the board. Also, we can enable ads on this so that we can feed our editor, Yenwei. #feed Yenwei. He does a good job editing stuff. I mean, if you also want the audio only, anchor.fm/DTIYDK. We're also on Spotify. Thank you so much to everyone who hung out. We had a blast from Frodan, Esports Law, Rainplosion, and Noster. Thanks for watching Don't Talk If You Don't Know, and we'll see you next time for more TFT action. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.